Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of the superstars all around the world. My name is Frank Salas. I go by the name The Talented Mr. Salas, and as you know, I am the founder of the Talent Shrine. Today, I have a wonderful guest. I found Yasmine through the digital nomad hashtag on Twitter. So for those of you guys who are not using Twitter, for those of you guys who have ever said the words, I don't get Twitter thing, you know what doesn't get the Twitter thing? Your bank account. Your bank account doesn't get the Twitter thing. So you need to get up off that ass and learn how to use that Twitter thing, because your bank account is missing some zeros because you don't know how to use it. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you somebody who's going to blow your mind and just destroy the most heavy, amazing beliefs that you have about work, travel, infrastructure, lifestyle. And this is Yasmine. Yasmine, can you introduce everybody in the Talent Tribe to yourself?
Sure, no problem. Well, first, Frank, I just want to thank you so much for having me on here. I was just so excited when you reached out to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, I love talking about remote work and helping parents find remote work. So when you said I get to talk about one of my favorite things, I was like, yes, yes, yes. So either way, let me introduce myself. Let me say hello to everyone. I actually think my mom is on here. Yeah, so I'm really excited. So she gets to see, she always hears about the things that I'm doing, but this is actually the first time she kind of gets to see me in action. So it's actually kind of cool. So hello to everyone. Thank you for joining me. I actually have some of my people on here as well. So hey, Tamika, thank you for joining me. So let me introduce myself. My name is Yasmine. I like to say that I am a mompreneur and parent lifestylist, which means that I help parents redesign their lives so that they can spend more time with their families and pursue their dreams. So typically I talk about if you're looking to start a business, if you're looking for ways to create passive income, or you're looking to leave the traditional 9-to-5 job, I talk about that. That's my big thing. And lately, excuse me for a minute, because I'm still kind of getting over a cold here, so I'm kind of like fighting it, but I wanted to talk to you guys. The biggest thing that I tend to talk about right now is remote work, and how do you find it, and what do you have to do to get it? Right? So, excuse me, I started this journey probably almost 10 years ago. And, you know, I was working for finance. I was working for companies like, you know, in the financial Wall Street world, institutional asset management firms. And I just got married and just had my son. And realized that the 60 plus hours of work a week that I was doing was not going to work with what I needed to do. So luckily for me, I got laid off. So that was actually a blessing. Excuse me. That was a blessing for me because it gave me the opportunity to really figure out what I wanted to do next and what I wanted my life to look like in the next coming years. And I just started, I started my own business for a little while, was doing t-shirts and bridal t-shirt company, bridal t-shirt company. And then I kind of let that go and ended up finding working with a small management consulting firm. And I'm sorry, findings here. A few nonprofits, and it just went off. So, oh gosh, I'm having a coughing fit.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, let me go ahead and pick up the ball and dribble for a little bit while you get situated over there. So right now, for those of you guys who are like, you know, thinking this is rocket science, like the number one thing that I hear is, you know, I hate a job. I hate being a cubicle. When I go to my office, I feel like I'm in prison. I feel like the sun goes up. I watch the sun go all the way to high noon, come all the way down. By the time I get home from traffic, by the time I get, you know, the kids all situated, bathed, ready for bed, the sun's gone. Like I literally from sun up to sundown did not get to enjoy the day because I was working for somebody else and somebody else's platform, making them, you know, more rich, making them, you know, whatever, more prosperous. And you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. So for those of you guys in the Talent Tribe, for all my superstars out there, this is what I call that tipping point. This is where you're tired of being where you're at right now, and you no longer want to deal with the pain that you're going through right there. So if you're at this point, just like Yasmine was, you have to be at that point where the pain that you're currently in is greater than the pain that you know you have to go through, because you do have to go through a transition period. And that's what Yasmine is going to educate us on, how to go through that transition period.
Yes. Great. You know what? You are like an amazing interviewer. Like you've done actually done like 100,000 interviews, right? So yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually just received a really touching email from one of my parents who actually happened to watch my Periscope yesterday and was just talking about how they really want to just be able to transition, right? And what do you do to transition? And I think for me, there's a lot of things that you need to do to transition, but one, and I talk about this all the time, is your mindset. What is your mindset? Okay. Are you really ready for this transition? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. And sorry about that. It takes a lot of encouragement and a lot of surrounding yourself with a lot of the right people to get you to that point. Okay. So before you even talk about leaving that 9 to 5, before you even start talking about finding remote work, what is your mindset? Have you really committed to saying, this is a life that I want, right? I'm sorry, my apologies.
Hey, let's go ahead and stop the interview right now. Everybody on Periscope, everybody on Huzzah, if you are bothered by Yasmine braving through this super defying cold, let me know and put like something that Yasmine will reschedule. But if you're okay with her sniffling and coughing a little bit, and you understand that she's human and a human being, and you're okay with her just getting herself out there, they're like, you know what, keep going, girl. Not at all. So they're good. They're saying. So you're good. So no more apologies are needed. We got love. You're with the Talent Tribe family right now.
Oh, I'm loving this so much. You guys are absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. Because like I said, I will literally be on my sick bed talking about remote work. Because I believe that is a life that people should have. If that's what they want, they definitely should have it. So I would say, so I talked about the mindset. I talked about making sure that you were there. The next thing I do is, for me, what I did was I started talking to people, okay? There are so many people out there who's really willing to sit down and have a conversation about what their remote work life is like, okay? The other great thing is and I talk about this all the time on my Periscopes, I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn. So if you do not have LinkedIn, I have to repeat this. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile and it's not optimized, you need to go do that now. You have to, I would say, after you listen to our interview first, run to LinkedIn and sign up, okay? Because it's so much valuable information there and so many people that you can connect to and learn so much about this world that, a lot of people are transitioning to. It's just amazing. In fact, let me give you a statistic. They said about 50% of American workers will be working in some form of fashion remotely, telecommuting, and by the year 2020. Okay, so this is something that's here to stay. And think about it. Why would you want to go after? And for parents, and I have to say this, you have to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You have to get yourself together. You have to get breakfast, get lunch, get the kiddies together, and get them out the door. By the time it's ready for you to get them out the door, you are exhausted. And not to mention that you still have to deal with the commuting. And if I'm in New York, so you have to hop on the train and deal with people breathing on you, coughing on you, just all this crazy stuff that you really shouldn't have to do just to earn a living, So you just have to do it. The other thing, there are tons of resources. I'm a resource. Follow me on Periscope. I Periscope Monday and Wednesdays at 7 p.m., where I talk about a variety of topics relating to helping parents redesign their lives. Great sites that you can check out are remotely.io, which I highly recommend. And they actually just did a listing. They released over 200 companies that have remote positions, or either they're distributed or they offer remote positions in some form or fashion. So the message I always like to get out to people is that there are legitimate positions You can get health insurance from these positions. You can get vacation from these positions. You can get gym memberships from these positions. They are legitimate companies who do not care where you live. And some of them are not even caring about where you work. Hey, Matt.
What up, Matt Crane? Look at Matt Crane in the building, guys. Matt Crane showing the love.
Thanks, Matt. I love this. I love
Feel free to send in selfies. I'm loving this huzzah engagement, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. So and I also have to shout out I have my Team Hustle group, which I like. They are just amazing and supporting. So they just kind of hopped on. So you'll see a bunch of people just kind of like in and out because they're just a great team. I mean, I don't know. I never would have thought that I'm meeting so many amazing people through social media. Because between the talent tribe, between Team Hustle, it's just amazing, and people who genuinely just want to help you. So, I don't know if your audience have any specific questions for me. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have, or we can just shoot the breeze.
Yeah, we're gonna chop it up. This ain't my first rodeo, and I'm pretty good at pulling out the diamonds. So they call me the diamond miner. I go into the deep in the mine. I pull out the strong diamonds, the ones that you got to get years from. So here's a diamond that I want to drop for everybody. We have Brooke here, who actually is in Texas, and she has 3 kids, and she goes to 3 different schools. And somebody like Brooke would definitely benefit from using resources. Or she's in Georgia. I'm sorry, she's from the South. She's from south of the Mason-Dixon line. We'll take her. Take her. Yeah, so if somebody like her has 3 kids and they're like, I've got to go to 3 different schools, and that might be like an hour and a half per day, both ways. So that's like 3 hours total or throughout the whole day.
Wow.
What somebody like her can do, and what other people can leverage, is other parents. If it takes a village, why not hit up other kids and say, hey, today's my day. And then you might do that 2 or 3 times a week. And then that time that you used to spend on carpooling with all these people, now you can leverage your friends. You can socialize your kids. You can strengthen their relationships. You guys can do that kind of stuff. And a lot of people are like, well, I've got 3 kids and they're messy. Put them to work. I remember cleaning the house when I was a kid. And if you know what, get a maid. And if you can't hire a maid, then you can't afford not to hire a maid, because every one of us who's listening to this phone call or listening to this broadcast is a business person. We are CEOs. And as a CEO, is your value to your business mopping up, sweeping, cooking, dropping off kids? No, it is doing RGA, revenue generating activities. And for those of you guys who still have a job, or maybe you have a business and you're looking for supplemental income, because some of these jobs are part-time, they're contract work, they're very specific time periods, that you can really get some business in there. And I know some people personally that I've hooked up with these remote jobs, and my virtual assistants or their virtual assistants now will do the work for them, and they just get credit for it. So they don't know that you're in an office, or they don't know that you're doing the work. So there's so many ways to do this. And what our purpose and our goal of this conversation is just to enlighten you, just to let you know that the way that you're making money now, the 1 way or 2 ways or even 3 ways that you're making money right now, there's millions of ways to make money. So if somebody is like, okay, I don't want to go to my office anymore, I'm on remotely, I'm doing this, and they're starting to get some traction, when they get some traction, what does that look like? Like, is there a resume? Is there a job offer? Is there a contract? Like, what's the technical stuff? Because I'm finding that people have to see and wrap their minds around this whole process. So can you break down the hiring process when these companies hire you remotely?
I'd be happy to do. Okay, so basically, like I said, the only difference between companies that are brick and mortar, are like the Fortune 500 companies or Fortune 1000 companies, and companies that are remote, is that they do not have a physical location. Okay, so one of my favorite companies that I love to use as a case study is Automatic. Okay, Automatic is probably one of the largest distributive companies that are out there. They have maybe about between 250 to 300 employees, right? And they their premise and in their culture is that they don't have a brick and mortar. They actually have a headquarters in San Francisco, in which I was reading that I think maybe is being used maybe once, twice a year. And if they have board meetings, they may use it. Like, it's really just there if you're in the area and you just kind of want to hang out, you can hang out. But the hiring process is pretty simple, and it's actually slightly different from a lot of the other companies. Is like, so for example, Automatic's hiring process is you submit an application, your resume, your cover letter, okay, and if they like you, they'll do like a Matt, which is the CEO and founder, will do an interview with you. Okay, and that's when I was reading before. So I don't know if he's changed it, but from what I know, he does an interview with you. If they like you, then they'll do a trial. Okay, and the great thing is you can continue working your regular job, but you will work with them for maybe about 20 hours a week, depending on what your schedule is. They're pretty flexible, but what they really want to do is see is how do you work? Okay, so you kind of get a trial run about working with the company. They get to see how you do, you get to see how they function, and if things go well, then you go into another interview. And I've actually read and spoken to people who've said, like Matt and Wallenberg, his interviews, his video interviews probably could last up to like 2 or 3 hours. So he's really, really intense from what I've heard about these about the hiring. Okay, so I often tell people, when you're looking to go and submit these actually apply to these positions, you definitely have to have a resume, you definitely have to have a cover letter, but I often like to suggest that you do things that are kind of out of the box. I actually did some freelance work for a social media expert resume writer for about almost a year, and I probably read, I would say, easily over 1,000 hours of content just on cover letters, how to make yourself stand out when you're applying to a job. I mean, just a ton of stuff, okay? And oftentimes when I tell people, you have to be creative, okay? So let me just give you one example. Okay, there was a part-time job that I was actually looking at to work remotely, and in 7 days, this company received 1,500 applications.
Wow.
They had to close their application process down because they received, can you imagine? What would you do, Frank? What would you do if you received 1,500 applications for one of your courses? I mean, I imagine in 7 days, it was just bananas, okay? But that just goes to show you that you have to do something different. So often when I tell people is do the cover letter, do the resume, but create a web page for a personal web page to help you with the branding. Okay, get on LinkedIn, beef up your profile, reach out to people, ask questions, offer to do project work with them so that they can get a feel about what you're doing, how you work, what you bring to the table. I actually, my first remote, well, it's actually was semi-remote. My first semi-remote position, I did not get. And I love telling this story because I came across this position and I was like, oh, I have to work for this company. It's like perfect. I think I was like maybe be able to work like 3 days or 4 days from home. And then I was on site. It was for a client, director of client services. And I get to work with clients. And that was my background. I worked with institutional investors. I was a trade assistant. So it kind of just carried over. And I didn't get the job. I was so devastated. But I realized that, you know what, about 2 weeks after sulking, I said, you know what, I'm going to get that job. Okay, I don't know how, but I'm going to get that job. So what I did was I sent a message to the CEO and the creative director and said, hey, you know what, I will volunteer my time to work with you. Okay, let's work on a project. I will volunteer my time. Within about 2 to 3 weeks after I completed, in the process of completing that project, they offered me the position. Okay, so what I often tell people is you gotta think, and one of my favorite sayings is, all I know is a backdoor to a yes. Okay, all I know is a backdoor to a yes, and you have to figure out what the creative part and what you have to do to make it happen. So do the do the cover letter, do the resume, but you got to get make sure your LinkedIn profile's pumped up. Make sure you have a website, make sure you have projects, make sure you're writing, do something to show that you're just more than the average Joe Schmo applying to this job.
That's amazing. You said so many things that I want to zero in and go with frame and frame. So in these interviews, I like to go really deep on the nuggets and the diamonds that you drop. So you dropped a bunch of diamonds up there. We basically went to K Jewelers and said, yo, we got a black card. Give us all the diamonds right there. We got a lot of love on Periscope. So make sure you guys share this out on Periscope. And if you're here on Huzzah, our live studio audience, make sure you share this out. Of course, on iTunes, Podcast Republic, Stitcher, YouTube. Make sure you guys share that out as well and leave some comments. Let us know how we're doing. Now, that being said, you said, what would I do if I had 500 people go to a course or 1,500 people go to a course? I've never had 1,500 people go to a course, but I do have an actual virtual assistant company in the Philippines where we have several hundred people that are working for us. And in that place, which is a third world country where they're begging for American dollars, every month I'm getting about 10 to 20,000 resumes come in. And I would say 50 of them are qualified. Of those, maybe like 9 of them are going to have the work ethic to really get in there, at least for my personal standards. And anybody who's ever done a project with me knows that when I come to the battlefield, I come with no armor, I come with no weapons, and I'm killing you with my bare hands and I'm drinking your blood. That's how intense that is when it comes to working with me, and that's how I treat my business. And we got a lot of people who are saying, you know, I need to hear or I need to get on LinkedIn. I haven't been on LinkedIn. I'm going to be insanely clear with you guys. If you want to be an influencer and you're treating social media as a business, yes, not a hobby, as a business entity, you must be on all platforms. You must be on all platforms every single day, all the single time. If you look at my journey, I've only been on Periscope for 11 and a half months. And you will see me go back and check my replays. If Catch was still around, which is an old video sharing platform back in the day, you would see me broadcast every single day, nonstop, even Snapchat, every single one of them. And lots of people have this attitude of like, oh, I have to be there. I have to be that. Change your thinking process. Yes, you get to be there. You get to serve people. Every one of us, like Yasmine, gets to educate people and serve people. Myself, I get to serve people every single day. I promise you, when I wake up every single day, I get 2 types of messages in my inbox. Frank, I am begging you to serve me. Please take my money and please change my life. And number 2, thank you so much for changing my life, Frank. I just got my first sponsor. I just got my first affiliate. I just got my first commission check. I just threw my first conference. I just developed my first course. And that's because I've been broadcasting every single day, nonstop, not on one platform, not on 2 platforms. And there's lots of people who say kind of stay in your lane, and that's decent advice, but you're talking to a growth hacker right here. You're talking to an accelerated growth hacker. I've been in this business, on the social media business, for 11 months and 15 days. I have 4 sponsors. I have multiple 5-figure launches. And I'm not saying this to impress you, only to impress upon you that the possibilities through something like this. And I want to speak on launches real quick. Lots of people are saying, oh, well, I had this kind of launch and I had that kind of launch. Right. But when you ask them what kind of things you have to show for it, they don't have anything to show because they're coaching people. They're working with people one-on-one. That's not a launch. That's you serving somebody. A launch is when you have an ebook, a digital course, a digital assets that you stick on your website, stick a price tag on it. And guess what? Every day when you wake up, that PayPal's blinging and you're getting money in there. Now, finally, the biggest gem of all, if you don't take anything from this entire broadcast, the biggest gem is Yasmine did not get the job. And she said, you know what? I'm going to volunteer my time and I'm going to serve you guys. I am going to serve you guys and just work with you guys. And you said 2 to 3 weeks, they gave you an offer and they were impressed with your work ethic. And that's the second mile, like Ken Loring said on Periscope. That's the second mile that most people will not go. And that's the attitude that every single one of us needs to have in order to be successful in this business. So, you know, that I just wanted to focus in on that because those were so many crucial diamonds that you just dropped right there. So, okay, you got the job. Now you're like getting your first few paychecks and you're starting to travel the world, or you have the opportunity to travel the world. Right. I find a lot of people, when they get remote work, the first thing they do is they stay home. They're like, all right, cool. I get to work anywhere in the world and I'm going to work at my house. Right. And now their creative juices aren't as prominent. Their social skills actually start to decline. Their maybe hygiene goes down. Like I think and this is me speaking personally, like I've had times where I've like just locked myself in a condo. I went to like travel to another place just to get away from my friends and family, turn my phone off. I locked myself in a condo with a nice view, you know, and I just work. I just go to this like cave and I just like drop all this content and stuff like that. And then I look up, I was like, man, I haven't shaved. Yo, I haven't even put on my contacts this week. I haven't seen you guys for 3 feet. You know, and then that's a trap that a lot of us who work remotely fall into. Right. So talk to us about the travel part. Talk to us about the fun part, and tell us about these really cool plans that you have here in the very near future for you and your family.
Okay. Well, let me just backtrack for a moment, because I oftentimes find that the biggest thing is, and the reason why I started to cater to and talking to parents is because I believe that parents, and especially parents of young children, those are the people, like I typically deal with parents who have children like 13 years and younger. And I specifically talk to them because the challenge is a lot different. Okay, so for me, when I was working at home, and at the time when I actually was working for that management consulting firm, I actually was also taking care of my 80 plus year old grandmother at the time. So not only did I have I was a caretaker to my grandmother, I was also a stay-at-home, work-at-home mom to my son, who was probably about 1 or 2 at the time. And then my husband was also working, but he was also in school. So I found that for me, the biggest thing is talking to parents and letting them know that, you know what, there is a life to do it. You just have to figure out. So whereas when I was single, I could, work all night and not even, it wouldn't matter. Right. But I had to take in some kind of the consideration that just wasn't going to happen. So for me, what I found is, like, I would actually, lay down when my son came home. I would from probably about 3 to probably about 6, 7. I wouldn't do anything. It's just strictly family time. Okay. And that's who I'd be focusing on. And then once the kids were in bed, I would lay down with them, take a nap, and then I would get up at like 12, 1, and I would stay up pretty much, Now, while you can't necessarily do this all the time, which is the reason why I'm not feeling well right now, there are times where you can kind of break that up and kind of get things done. When you have to get things done, you get things done. That's it, right? Now, while we were, because of my situation, because I couldn't really travel like I wanted to, we would spend time and do summers. So like we'd spend time in the summer in the Caribbean. We would, we spent time in California, and just like those were the times, and we'd be working. My husband and I, we both at the time were able to work from wherever, and we just work. Okay, as long as we had a laptop and a Wi-Fi, we were good. And the funny thing is, my son got so used to this type of lifestyle that when we would go to meetings, especially in meetings with clients, he would be okay. Like they jokingly said that he was the CEO. Okay. Excuse me. That he was the CEO. So now, fast forward to now, I have 2 children. Okay, one's 8 and one's 3. And we are actually looking to, in about the next 2 years, I'm really trying to convince my husband. I really want to go to South Africa and live, and I'm working on that. But we are looking to live someplace else, okay? Because I really want my boys to be able to experience a life outside of the United States. I really want them to know that, you know what, you can, have the life that you want, and you don't have to, necessarily be here. Okay. And I know for some families and some parents, and I've talked to parents where you're like, okay, what about the stability? How do you deal with that? And I'm of two thoughts. As long as you guys are okay, as long as parents we're okay, our kids are going to be okay. Okay. That's 1. 2, I would say that, and I'm taking a water break right now.
Take your water break, girl.
Thing. 2 is that, there are ways to work around it. Okay. There's summers. As soon as these kids get out of school, go some remote place and spend the whole summer there and just live there. Okay. There are a ton of really great, I know the digital nomad groups, which specifically focus on like singles and people with no children. But there are other groups like My Wandering Year, where specifically caters to families, single moms who want to travel. So in fact, they're actually traveling for about a year right now. And they're like going to China and Prague and Costa Rica, I think. So they're going to a few other places. But there are a lot of groups on social media, especially if you go to Facebook, that help you walk you through the process. Okay. So it's a way to do it, but you first have to, if you're not going to do the business side, And some people are just not doing that. I personally prefer doing business. But I also recommend going finding that remote company and remote job, because they don't care where you live. They don't care where you live. They just want to know that you're doing the job. Okay. And you'd be surprised. A lot of them are very entrepreneurial. So they're happy with, as long as you're doing your job. And if you decide you want to start a business and do other things, they look for people who want to have outside hobbies. That's what they value. And it's so ingrained in their culture that it's just bananas. It's absolutely bananas. So
that's amazing. And I'm glad you took that direction, because that's exactly where I was headed. So in the Talent Tribe, I constantly tell people, look, if you are not working on your dreams, you're going to work on somebody else's. And for everybody who is in the Talent Tribe, the reason that they're looking for that they're in this business is because they want to be a social media influencer, but some of them are locked down to their location. Yeah. Some of them are locked down to their job. Their job isn't serving them. The job isn't making them happy. And the next realistic step, instead of them quitting their job, because the 3 most addictive things in the entire planet: number 1, a paycheck; number 2, heroin; number 3, carbohydrates. A paycheck is more addictive than heroin, because in your mind, you're used to getting resources that way. And so some people, maybe they're 30 years old, maybe they're 40 years old, maybe they're 50, and in their mind, they've never been able to generate their own revenue. And this is just that next step. So as a tribe leader, number 1, I firmly believe that you should be going on the deep end. I'm crazy. I don't have any kids. I know. I hear it every day. Blah, blah, blah. My job is to push you. My job is to get you to get outside your comfort zone. And as an influencer and as the leader to my tribe, it's also my job to bring in people like Yasmine to help me serve you guys. If that is the next step in your journey, all I want to do is bring value to you guys. And all I want to do is bring somebody like Yasmine to show you that there is a possibility for you to get there. But at the end of the day, I'm talking deathbed. I'm not talking paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm talking deathbed right now. At the end of the day, I know deep down in everyone's heart, when you're on your deathbed, everybody wants their own business. Not 99.9%, 100%. Because every time I get a message, every time I get a phone call, Frank, I want to be a public speaker. Frank, I want to write my own books. Frank, I want to travel the world. Frank, I want to have my own courses. Frank, I want to be an influencer. Yeah. This might be that next step for you guys. But at the end of the day, you have to make that transition from working for somebody else and pushing somebody else's dream to that next level. And what could realistically be a next step is, if, let's say, you do get a job making, and these jobs, I'm assuming, pay decent, like, 50, 60, like, let's talk, what's the numbers we're talking right now?
In fact, I'm glad you actually mentioned that, because I was reviewing some facts yesterday, and they say, I think it was like, I want to say, and I don't remember the percentage wise, I think it may be in the 40s or 50%, but probably about 40 to 50% of people who work from home make about $58,000 a year. Okay, 75% of those people are at 65,000 or above. So if people really want to see what kind of salaries people are bringing in, I recommend you checking out Buffer. Okay, because Buffer is extremely transparent about what they pay people. And so, for example, for a position, I think for customer related positions, you can make, if you're in New York, for example, living in New York, you can make something like $80,000 to $90,000 based on your experience and all that other stuff. Okay, but the thing about it is, the point is that I know, and I know for a lot of people, you're right. It's security. Okay. It's quote unquote security, because we all know that with people being laid off, it's really not secure. A paycheck is not secure. And I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a really great podcast that I always tend to listen to every time when I was in the office, that reminded me that you really have to get out. And if I think about it, I'll talk about it later. But you really have to think about, how many income streams are you having? Okay. And even if you're working the full-time position, you have to have several income streams, because the thing about it is, what happens if that income is gone? And unless you kind of hedge yourself and prepare yourself and kind of create some diversification in your income, you're basically out of luck. Okay. And that's the really big thing that people, I think it goes through the mindset. We were coming out of a space where, our grandparents and our parents At least for me, I'm generation. I think I'm Generation X. I was born in the 70s, so
Yeah. Yeah.
But we come from that mindset that you get a job, you stay there for 20, 30 years, you retire, then you get to travel. Okay, but I tell people all the time, why can't you travel now? Why why should you wait 30 and 40 years to go and take a 3-month cruise? When you can just as easily find a position, create several different incomes, and have the life where you can live where you want to live and when you want to live and how you want to live. And oftentimes kids are better for it. Kids they get to kind of see the world. And I think that's the beauty of it. I spent, when I was 17, I did an ecological adventure in Brazil. And, I was a 17-year-old. I grew up in New York City, but I was like walking and touring a cave filled with bats. And I'm sitting there doing alligator hunting. And, I'm jumping and swimming in the Rio Negro, and those are the cool things that you get to do when you start seeing the world. So don't wait till you're 70, don't wait till you're 80 to see the world, when you can't really go whitewater rafting. Do it now and find a position that's going to give you that lifestyle that you want.
That's amazing. And so now that we got some numbers out there, you can make a viable income, but I want to blow your guys' mind a little bit. If you make more than 30,000 US American dollars, you are in the top 0.00001% of the 8.6 billion human beings on this planet, the third rock from the sun. And if you make more than that and you take this remote income, let's say even making $58,000, let's say you go to some place like the Philippines, where I have an outsourcing company, and I outsource there because 1 US American dollar is 50 Filipino pesos. Or you go to Thailand, there's a lot of people in Chiang Mai. Or you can go to Argentina, or you can go to Brazil, and you can make yourself your income go a lot further. I live in the Philippines anywhere from 4 to 6 months per year. The last time that I was there, I got $3,000 for 3 months, 90 days. I lived like a king. I was getting $14 massages for 2 hours. With a tip. I was eating out 5 times a day. Everything was $1 with the tip to eat out. I was to go see the new Batman versus Superman on a date with this chick, and she's like, yo, can I bring my friend? I'm like, sure, this is all Monopoly money here anyways. She brings her friend. We go see the new Batman movie in IMAX 3D, and like the day it comes out, and we go to coffee, we go to dinner, we have drinks. My whole tab for the whole thing with everything was less than 25 American dollars, guys. So I'm like, bring your whole family, bring everybody. Like, it's all good. It's all good. And
I'm sorry, go ahead. Because I have it. It's funny that you said that, and I'm really sorry because when you said that, I was like so excited because like I said, I'm a part of a group that they actually did put out a question to the group to find out what their monthly cost was living in different locations. Philippines was one, Thailand was another, Costa Rica. I think the range was, between like at the low end was like maybe 600 to maybe 1,300. Now, but that included like a house, it included a cook, it included a maid, it included someone to take your kids back and forth, it included electricity, it included everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, you really can, as you say, live like a king. So my apologies, but I got like extremely excited when I heard that.
No worries. This is a ping pong conversation. I love these kinds of chat, and I love to get into this kind of space right here. We have a lot of people asking, I'm white though, is it safe for me? Obviously they're looking at us and they're like, oh, well, you guys probably blend in. Look, if you're white, they're going to treat you even better. You might, they might try to rip you off, but you've got to, be a little, that's a different conversation for a different podcast. But if you are a foreigner, they're going to treat you like a king. When I go to or queen, when I go to the Philippines, I have a goon. And what is a goon? A guy that drives me around with an assault rifle in his car for $250 per month. And I have a live-in maid for $75. I don't wash my dishes. I don't do my laundry. I don't even pick up my plate to take it to the sink. I don't even have to go to the fridge and get like water. I can say, yeah, agua por favor. And she comes in with water, with ice, with a straw, with everything. Then she asks me if I need anything else. And then I'm like, you know what? Can you call my friend and can you arrange a meeting for us to go to the park a little bit later? Can you call a taxi? I don't even have to go on my phone to do any of that stuff because I have somebody there who is willing to serve me. And they're humble about it. They're like, oh my God, I have a place to live. This place is nice. Frank treats me great. And this is a great place to be. So for those of you guys who are struggling, who you guys are, working your 9 to 5 and then doing your side hustle and paying all your bills and you have more month and you do money at the end of the bills, guess what? Your money goes so much further in other places. And I'm actually going to be in the Philippines here in 9 days, and I'm going to be island hopping. I'm going to be going from island to island. I'm going to be recording my digital assets that when people go to my website and they purchase my courses, they're going to see me in different exotic locations. Yeah. It's going to cost me less to produce it. I'm going to have way more fun. My dollar's going to go a lot further. And for somebody like me who has a decent following, who I am a micro influencer, to take my business to the next level, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest the money that I save from my cost of living alone and put that all the way into Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Instagram ads, and I'm going to propel my business and perpetuate it further. So that's the reason why working remotely, for some people who may not want to take that full leap to entrepreneurship, which you're going to have to take regardless, like we've been talking about, your job is not secure. Buffer is one of the best remote work companies right now. Zapier is about to launch a social media thing that's going to drop them. That's just going to nix them. Guess who's up next? Facebook. Facebook is going to buy probably either Buffer or one of those scheduling platforms to be incorporated in all of them. So for those of you guys who are sitting at a job right now, look at Lehman Brothers. Billions of dollars. And guess what? 2008, boom, bounce.
I worked for Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns is gone. Bear Stearns was, and I was actually wrapped up. It's funny you said it because I was on maternity leave when it happened, and my coworkers called me and like, "Did you hear? Bear Stearns is no longer." I'm like, "What do you mean Bear Stearns is no longer? Like it's gone?" And it just goes to show you that you really have to create your own lane. And if you don't create your own lane, somebody's going to create it for you, which is what we said before. And we're not in a place where we're able to rely on companies to take care of us anymore. And if we don't start taking care of ourselves, we're going to wind up being miserable and have a life full of regrets, when all you have to do is just take that leap. And it's a big thing about the mindset. Stop being fearful. And another saying that I always say is, if you're going to fail forward. Okay? You don't go backwards, fail forward and fail, get back up and just make it happen, because eventually it will. Make your little tweaks, but it will. And I know, like I said, a lot of times parents often are like, well, you know what, I need the security. And I'm like, okay, fine, then take baby steps, okay? Go find a remote position. If you don't want to work remotely, if you don't want, work full-time, they have part-time options. So there's a lot of things that are out there. There's a lot of valuable nuggets out there. You just need to know where to look.
I love it. All right, so we're gonna wrap up this interview. This was full of so many diamonds. Thank you so much for serving us. But I want to always leave the talent tribe with actionable steps. Okay. So for somebody who's ready to take that next step, the first step, especially for people who you serve, is the families. So if you have a family, you've got kids, you got a husband, you got a wife. What's that conversation like with that family? How do you huddle up the whole family clique and just say, yo, I'm tired of spending American dollars for American rent. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to Thailand. Let's go to South Africa. Let's go to Chiang Mai. Let's go to the Philippines and hang out with Frank and his crazy ass. How do you start that conversation? Let's say you're because in a relationship, there's always a kite and there's always a string. The kite is free flowing and out there, and the string is grounded to keep them there. If you're the kite who's interested in this, how do you talk to your string? How do you have that conversation?
Well, the first thing I would say is you guys have to go check out my remote job guide. That's the first thing I would tell people. Perfect. I have a guide. You guys got to check it out. It's a kit. It just gives you everything that you need to get jump started. That's one. And I'll give you guys the link afterwards. But I really think that the biggest thing is to kind of have your facts. My husband worked for a extended amount of period in the legal field. Okay, so with him, I always have to come back with facts. I always have to come back with a big dissertation on why we should do what we do. So I think the biggest thing is just showing people, showing your husband, showing your wife, showing your spouse that there are other people who are doing this. Okay. And I mean, like Digital Nomads actually has a really great video that you see and gets to show you different things that people are doing. So showing videos of what other people are doing, that's one. Two, do something where you're doing like maybe a 2-week vacation, okay? And then extend it to a month.
Okay.
And then extend it for 2 months. You know, do things starting with the summer is probably a really great way to do it. Totally cool. It's a really great way to kind of get your feet wet with the traveling, because it's a shorter period of time, okay? And it gives you kind of an idea of what to expect, what to do. And then find families that do the same thing. Their website, Facebook has a lot of great websites and a lot of great groups that you can join and kind of talk to people and see what other people's experiences are. And then, you know, bring your spouse into the fold, okay? Especially if you have a spouse who is very entrepreneurial, you probably are in a good position to convince them to kind of explore and do something else. So I definitely would start getting yourself ingrained in that world, because once you start getting yourself ingrained in that world, it makes it a lot easier, and it takes the kind of the how can I say, the mystery out of the whole traveling abroad, you know. And then it's nice just to have people that are going to be able to support you as you go through it. So that's
So that was kind of easy. That was kind of easy. That's usually not that easy. Like, I have somebody right now, his name is Mr. Castro, who's joining us live on Periscope, and he's like, yo, my wife doesn't understand what this is. My wife doesn't get this. And like, if he went to his wife with something like this, she would be like, no, I grew up where you go to a job for 20 to 30 years, you retire, and this and that. How do you have that conversation?
You know what? And I'm just going to say two things. One, you're either going to have somebody that is going to be willing to do it, or you're not, okay? But I'm a true believer in the reason why people tend to say, you know, well, I'm not doing this because I've been here for, you know, this is 20 years and this is the way we do things. It's based on fear. Okay. And I often, you know, my husband and I have had deep conversations about this. Okay. Well, why isn't that you want to do this? Or what is your fear about this? You know, what is it? What are the things that you want out of life? Okay. And if you're able to have, I mean, we know that, you know, communication is key in any relationship. So you really have to have that conversation. But like I said, the oftentimes they're saying, doing things like doing the traveling, okay? And you don't necessarily have to do traveling on a year, 3 years, 5 years. Start small, okay? Because it's like a rock, okay? When a sculptor is building something, he's not just going to go and crack it and then it's going to break. It's little steps and little nicks that are eventually going to form whatever that beautiful sculpture is going to be, okay? You have to take it that step by step. Take the little things, you know, start hammering at it very little and start breaking down whatever fear that person has, and then see what happens, you know? So you have to show them that other people are doing things, and then address why she feared that, you know, I need to be at a job for 20 years. You know, I can't remember the guy, but I definitely am going to send it to you, because he offers a really great layout of why you should not want to get a paycheck. Okay. But I would say my recommendation is go schedule a week vacation someplace. Okay.
Yeah.
See what other people are doing. Okay. And then she likes it. And I wouldn't even say, okay, give her 3 countries, okay, and give her 3 countries and let her choose, because we also like the idea that we think we're making decisions, okay. Find a place, get 3 countries, let her choose. You guys go there for a week, and then say, you know what, honey, I really like that. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? let's go back. And let's go back for 2 weeks. Okay, well, honey, what did you think about that? Maybe we should go back again. And let's go back for 3 weeks. You got to start small, okay? You can't, Rome wasn't built in a day, and transitioning people and changing people's mindset is not going to happen overnight.
Right. So I got a little thing I would like to contribute as well. So right now I'm in Las Vegas and I have properties out in Austin, Texas. And what I do is I rent those out on Airbnb. Now, disclosure, Austin, Texas is a badass city and lots of people want to come there all the time. So I'm in a huge market for SPRs or short-term rentals. And while I'm here in Las Vegas, I'm leveraging my properties in Austin, Texas, and I'm renting those out so I can then use that cash flow to maybe fund a travel. Or when I'm in the Philippines, guess what? $1 in America, $50 in the Philippines, or 28 pesos in Costa Rica, or whatever that trend currency exchange is right now. So that right there is a great way for you to say, okay, well, we're going to go on vacation. We're going to make some money because I work remotely now. And on our assets here in America, the greatest country in the world, where the wealthiest human beings on the planet live, where anybody would die to be a part of, now we can leverage that home there and use that real estate as a cash flow property through a new shared economy marketplace like an Airbnb that didn't exist 5 years ago. And that's the new technology that you have available at your fingertips. So this has been a phenomenal broadcast. How can people find you, Yasmine? Where can people get to figure out this whole work remote thing?
Great. Well, okay, I'm on Snapchat. I don't Snapchat as much, but I am on Snapchat. So you can hit me up on Snapchat, Yasmine Hayes. It's very simple. I'm on Facebook, Yasmine Hayes. I'm on Twitter, Yasmine Hayes. I'm on Periscope. I'm an avid Periscoper. So I scope Monday and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. where I talk about tricks and tips for parents who want to redesign their lives. And that's Yasmine Hayes. That's my handle. I'm also, if you want to email me, you can email me at info@yasminehayes.com. And if you're interested in learning more about the remote field and want to kind of get a jump start on jump starting your remote job search, you can go to bit.ly/remote jump starter. Okay, so that's bit.ly/remote job starter. And that just kind of includes a guide on how to find legitimate work at home. It talks about a webinar about work at home, protecting yourself from work at home scams. And it gives you a couple of videos and stuff like that to kind of give you a better idea of where to start. But definitely info@Yasmine Hayes is a really great way to email me. I'm always looking for questions. If you have questions about remote work, I often take those questions and then I'll talk about it on Periscope. But Yasmine Hayes is where it's at. So you can just kind of hit me up on any of those platforms. So
Awesome. This has been another interview courtesy of the talented Mr. Salas, founder of the Talent Tribe, where I bring world-class experts to change your mindset, change your lifestyle. And all of this is great, guys, but if you're just listening to our voices, if you're just taking notes and you have a binder full of stuff that coulda, woulda, shouldas, I want you to have a real conversation with the deathbed version of you and have a real heart-to-heart with that person, that man, that woman, that human being, and say, between where we're at right now and where we're about to be in our deathbed, what are we going to do to design our life and make our life where we want to be there? So that's where I want to leave you guys with. Yasmine, thank you so much for helping me serve the Talent Tribe. You did phenomenal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. And like I said, I know you said it was okay, but I really totally apologize for the whole cough of it. But thank you. I had a blast.
my video and my audio guy is going to make you look like a supermodel, sound amazing. We're going to hook you up. We got you.
Oh, great. Beautiful. Great. So you know what? Then send this to your audio and video guy.
All right, Yasmine. Thanks a lot.
Take care.